Picture this. You're sitting in traffic, already running late. Someone cuts you off without signaling. Your heart races. Your jaw clenches. That familiar heat rises in your chest. And suddenly, you're not just angry about the traffic, you're furious about everything. The deadline at work, the argument from yesterday, the message you haven't replied to. It all comes crashing down in that single moment. We've all been there. That moment when anger hijacks everything, our clarity, our peace, our ability to think straight. And afterwards we feel exhausted, ashamed, wondering why we let something so small spiral so far out of control. But what if I told you that nearly 2,000 years ago, one of the most powerful men in the world faced the same struggle and found a way through it? Today we're diving into the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, Stoic philosopher, and someone who understood anger better than almost anyone in history. Because if he could find inner balance while leading an empire through wars, plagues, and betrayals, we can learn to manage our emotions in our everyday lives. Marcus Aurelius wasn't born calm. He wasn't naturally patient or serene. He had to work at it every single day. And that's what makes his teachings so powerful. They weren't written for philosophers in ivory towers. They were personal notes, reminders to himself, written in the chaos of military campaigns and political turmoil. His private journal, which we now call Meditations, is filled with observations about anger, frustration, and the daily challenge of maintaining inner peace when the world feels overwhelming. He knew what it was like to deal with incompetent people, unfair situations, and circumstances beyond his control. Sound familiar? The beautiful thing about Stoic philosophy, and Marcus Aurelius specifically, is that it doesn't tell you to suppress your emotions or pretend they don't exist. Instead, it teaches you to understand them, to see them clearly, and to choose how you respond. Today, we're going to explore exactly how he did that. We'll look at 3 core Stoic methods for managing anger, practical steps you can take starting today, and the common mistakes that keep people trapped in cycles of emotional reactivity. But first, we need to understand where anger actually comes from. Section 1. The root of anger through a Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius wrote something profound in his Meditations. Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. At first glance, this might sound dismissive, even frustrating. But he's pointing to something crucial. Our anger isn't caused by external events. It's caused by our judgment about those events. Think about it. The person who cut you off in traffic didn't inject anger into your bloodstream. Your boss's criticism didn't physically create frustration in your mind. What happened was this. Something occurred. You interpreted it a certain way. You told yourself a story about what it meant. And that story generated the emotion. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, and it's the foundation of emotional mastery. There are things within your control, your thoughts, your reactions, your choices, and there are things outside your control, other people's actions, the past, most external circumstances. Anger arises when we mentally resist reality, when we think, this shouldn't be happening, or they shouldn't have done that, or this isn't fair. We're arguing with what is, and reality always wins that argument. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Here's what's really happening when you get angry. You have an expectation about how things should be. Reality doesn't meet that expectation. Your mind registers this as a threat or an injustice. Your body activates its stress response, adrenaline, cortisol, the whole cascade. And suddenly you're in fight or flight mode over something that, objectively, might not even matter a week from now. But here's the empowering part. If your judgment creates the anger, then changing your judgment can dissolve it. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop caring about injustice. It means you stop letting circumstances control your inner state. You learn to distinguish between what you can influence and what you're simply torturing yourself over. Marcus faced assassination attempts, military defeats, the loss of children, and the constant burden of impossible decisions. Yet, he wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." The root of anger isn't out there, it's in here. In the stories we tell, the meanings we assign, the expectations we cling to. And that's actually good news, because it means we have more power than we think. Section 2. 3. Stoic methods to manage anger. So how do we actually apply this? Marcus Aurelius used 3 powerful techniques that remain just as effective today. Let's break them down. Method 1. The practice of rational detachment. Marcus constantly reminded himself to step back and see things objectively. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." That sounds pessimistic, doesn't it? But it's not. It's preparation. He's removing the element of surprise, the shock that amplifies anger. Rational detachment means observing your anger without being consumed by it. It's like watching clouds pass through the sky. You notice them, but you don't chase them or try to hold on to them. Here's a practical technique Marcus used. When you feel anger rising, describe what's happening in neutral, factual terms. Not, "That idiot disrespected me," but "A person spoke words I found disagreeable." Not, "This is a disaster," but "An unexpected situation has occurred that requires adjustment." This creates distance between the event and your emotional reaction. In that space, you find choice. The neuroscience backs this up. When you label an emotion accurately and describe a situation objectively, you activate your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, which actually reduces activity in the amygdala, your emotional alarm system. Marcus would ask himself, "Is this thing within my control? Can I change it?" If yes, make a plan. If no, accept it and focus on what you can control, your response. Method 2. Understanding others through perspective. Here's one of Marcus's most transformative insights. When you wake up, think of the privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. But he also wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness.'" Why? Because people act from their own understanding, their own fears, their own limitations. They're not doing things to you. They're doing things from their own perspective, trying to meet their own needs in the only way they know how. Marcus wrote, "When people injure you, ask yourself what good or harm they thought would come from it. If you understand that, you'll feel sympathy rather than outrage or anger. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior. It simply removes the personal sting. That aggressive driver might be rushing to a hospital. Your critical colleague might be dealing with their own insecurity. Your frustrating relative might be responding from old wounds you can't see." The Stoics believed that all wrongdoing comes from ignorance. People do harm because they don't understand what's truly good for them. If they really knew, they'd act differently. This shifts anger to something closer to compassion. You're not being weak, you're being wise. You're refusing to let other people's confusion disturb your peace. Method 3. The art of premeditation. Marcus regularly practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This means mentally rehearsing challenges before they happen. Each morning, he'd visualize potential difficulties, meetings with difficult people, unexpected obstacles, disappointments. Not to be negative, but to be prepared. When these things inevitably happened, they didn't trigger surprise and reactive anger. They triggered his prepared response. You can do this too. Before a stressful meeting, imagine scenarios where things don't go your way. Decide in advance how you'll respond with calm and dignity. Before a difficult conversation, visualize the other person being defensive or dismissive, and practice your grounded response. This isn't pessimism, it's emotional immunity training. Athletes visualize plays, surgeons rehearse procedures. Why wouldn't we rehearse emotional responses to predictable challenges? Marcus also practiced negative visualization in reverse, imagining loss to cultivate gratitude. He'd remind himself that everyone he loved would eventually be gone, that his power was temporary, that his life would end. Rather than creating anxiety, this created perspective. Suddenly, small frustrations seemed absurd compared to what truly mattered. Section 3. Practical daily steps. These philosophical ideas are powerful, but let's make them practical. Here are 5 daily practices inspired by Marcus Aurelius that you can start today. Practice 1. The morning preparation. Spend 5 minutes each morning doing what Marcus did. Anticipate challenges. Ask yourself, what difficulties might I face today? How do I want to respond? Write down 1 or 2 likely scenarios and your intended response. This simple act dramatically reduces reactive anger. Practice 2. The pause protocol. When you feel anger rising, implement a pause. Marcus wrote extensively about creating space before responding. Count to 10. Take 3 deep breaths. Say to yourself, this is a judgment, not a fact. Give your prefrontal cortex time to come online before your amygdala takes control. Practice 3. The evening review. Marcus ended each day with reflection. Take 5 minutes before bed to review moments of anger or frustration. Don't judge yourself. Just observe. Ask, what triggered this? What was my expectation? How could I respond differently next time? This turns every emotional challenge into a learning opportunity. Practice 4. The control inventory. When facing a frustrating situation, write 2 columns. Within my control and outside my control. Be ruthlessly honest. Your peace of mind goes in the first column. Most everything else goes in the second. Focus all your energy on column 1. Practice 5. The gratitude counterbalance. For every source of anger or frustration, identify 3 things you're grateful for. This isn't toxic positivity, it's perspective training. Marcus constantly reminded himself of fortune's gifts to counter life's difficulties. Balance the ledger. Section 4. Common mistakes. Let me share the most common mistakes people make when trying to manage anger, because avoiding these will accelerate your progress dramatically. Mistake 1. Confusing suppression with management. Stoicism isn't about bottling up emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about understanding them, processing them, and choosing your response. Feel your anger, acknowledge it, then decide if it serves you. Mistake 2. Expecting immediate perfection. Marcus Aurelius worked on this his entire life. He didn't master anger in a week. Be patient with yourself. Progress, not perfection. Mistake 3. Using Stoicism to judge others. These tools are for your inner work, not for criticizing people who struggle emotionally. Stay humble. Yesterday you were reactive too. Tomorrow you might be again. Mistake 4. Thinking acceptance means approval. You can accept reality without approving of it. Acceptance simply means this is what's happening right now. From that clear-eyed starting point, you can work to change what's possible without wasting energy fighting what isn't. Mistake 5. Practicing only during calm moments. The real work happens in the fire. Start small. Practice these techniques with minor irritations first. Build your capacity gradually. Let's bring this home. Marcus Aurelius taught us that anger isn't caused by external events. It's caused by our judgment about those events. And since we control our judgments, we have far more power than we typically realize. We explored 3 core methods: rational detachment to observe rather than be consumed, understanding others to remove the personal sting, and premeditation to build emotional immunity. We covered 5 practical daily steps: morning preparation, the pause protocol, evening reviews, control inventories, and gratitude counterbalance. And we identified the common mistakes that derail progress. Here's what I want you to remember most. You're not trying to become emotionless. You're learning to respond rather than react. You're developing the space between stimulus and response where your freedom lives. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That strength is available to you right now, not when circumstances improve, not when people finally act the way they should. Right now, in this moment, regardless of what's happening around you. Start small. Choose 1 practice from today's video. Maybe it's the morning preparation. Maybe it's the pause protocol. Just 1. Practice it for a week. Notice what changes. Your anger doesn't define you. It's just weather passing through your inner landscape. And with these Stoic tools, you're learning to remain steady through any storm. If this resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more content on controlling emotions and overcoming anxiety. Check out the other videos in this playlist. We're building something powerful together. And remember Marcus's words, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. You have more control than you think, and that's where your freedom begins." See you in the next video.